Lieutenant, have you ever piloted a starship out of space dock? There's a first time for everything, Lieutenant. Take us out, Mrs. Saavik. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Entertainment and Media. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel, especially if the algorithm brought you here. If you want to make a donation to the channel, that information is below in the description box. And also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. In addition to being a YouTube content creator, I'm also a writer, and I am working on my own book. Well, everyone, it's been a little quiet over here, but I had to come and make this tribute video to the late Kirstie Alley. She acted in numerous things over her career. This video will focus on her most memorable role for me, and probably the first thing I ever saw her act in, and that is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Kahn, where she played Lieutenant Saavik. Now, my history with Star Trek goes way back. As I was doing this video, I was thinking, I don't have any Star Trek shirts, so I'm wearing my Space Detective shirt. Space Detective is an independent film my brother Amahl Dunbar helped create along with the other members of the Swamp Media Group. You can look it up via a quick Google search or here on YouTube. But my love for science fiction, and in this instance Star Trek, it goes back to my youth. I've intended to create more videos over here. I created a Star Trek video dealing with Beale and Lokai in the episode Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. I intend to create more, but life is very, very busy. But my history goes way back. And I have very, very fond childhood memories of seeing Star Trek II, The Wrath of Kahn. That movie was released in 1982, so we were early in the Reagan administration. I was 6 years old. Yeah, so I was too young to remember the motion picture with Persis Kambata. I think we had a mug. We had a mug at home with images of the original crew and Decker and Ilea on the mug. But I was too young to go to the theater and understand what was happening there. But at 6 years old, I was old enough to go to the theater and to see Star Trek II and to comprehend some of the characters, and also to comprehend some of the themes. I think at that age, I think the one that I understood the most was the theme of revenge. Khan seeking his revenge against Captain Kirk. But there were other themes in that movie, including aging, friendship, the passing of the torch from a younger generation to, from an older generation to a younger generation, and also mentorship and apprenticeship. And that was most notable in that movie between Mr. Spock and Lieutenant Saavik. And it turns out, even from a young age, one of my most vivid memories of that movie was Kirstie Alley's Lieutenant Saavik. So I actually have the DVD and the CD soundtrack for Star Trek II, The Wrath of Kahn, and there's just a lot that was memorable about that movie. It was directed by Nicholas Meyer. You can watch documentaries here on YouTube of how he got involved in the project, what his inspirations were. He wanted to make it very seafaring, and he wanted it to be very Horatio Hornblower. I think that's a seafaring story, but there was a lot that was just memorable about the movie. His directing it, the cast, Ricardo Montalban's reprising the Kahn role, the music by James Horner. All that came together, in my opinion, to make a cinematic masterpiece. I watched that movie so much when I was younger. I knew, well, I probably still know all of the lines and all of the sequences. The opening sequence when Lieutenant Saavik and her fellow cadets are in the Kobayashi Maru simulation. The Starship Reliant and Captain Terrell and Commander Chekhov unfortunately finding Kahn on Sadie Alpha 5 because they thought it was Sadie Alpha 6. The Enterprise leaving space dock where Lieutenant Saavik takes the Kahn, or the Com, whichever one it is. The first battle between the Enterprise and the Reliant. Kirk's self-reflection throughout the movie, and then the battle of the Mutara Nebula, and then Spock's sacrifice in the Enterprise going to warp speed as Khan activates the Genesis device to destroy everyone. There were just so many memorable scenes from that movie, and it was just a masterpiece. But one of the integral parts of that movie for me was Kirstie Alley's Lieutenant Saavik. Now, Kirstie Alley, throughout her long career, she acted in many things. I mean, Star Trek II The Wrath of Kahn probably was not her first role. Afterwards, she was in Cheers with Ted Danson and that crew. She was in Look Who's Talking with John Travolta. Her other roles aren't coming to mind right now, but she got involved with some of the reality stuff, and if I recall correctly, there were things about her weight. I think she became a bit of a self-deprecating person and had some struggles, and her weight became a joke at one point. But my first memory was her as Lieutenant Saavik, and so I'm going into the theater as a 6-year-old, and I'm looking at the screen, and she's dressed in her red Starfleet outfit. She's got the Vulcan ears. She's very proper, very logical, like a Vulcan. But even as a young kid, I'm looking up and I'm thinking, who is this beautiful woman? Who's this sexy woman with the? She didn't have a high-pitched voice or a very deep voice, but somewhere in the middle. But yeah, at that young age, I thought she was gorgeous. And she played that role very well. She was Captain Spock's apprentice, and I think that was something that was rehashed in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. But Lieutenant Saavik wanted to do everything by the book. She knew all the regulations, she knew all the rules, and she knew all of the standard operating procedures for Starfleet. And she played really, really well. Kirstie Alley did against, or along with, Leonard Nimoy's Captain Spock and William Shatner's Admiral Kirk, and that's who she played off of for most of the movie. So there was definitely a master and an apprentice theme there. We know that she was always near Mr. Spock in that movie, starting with the Kobayashi Maru test, and then when Kirk gets to the Enterprise, and he has his initial dialogue with the cadets, and the everyone breaks up. She huddles up with Mr. Spock, and they're speaking in Vulcan, and she's like, is that him? I expected more. He's very human. And Spock in Vulcan says, yeah, well, nobody's perfect. And then she commands the Enterprise out of space dock. And then, later on in the movie, when Kirk, Spock, and McCoy go to look at the Genesis presentation, he gives her the captain's chair. And then all throughout the movie, she wants to know how Kirk defeated the Kobayashi Maru test. So I thought she played that really well. And in my opinion, she wasn't the main character. She was a supporting character, but she was definitely a key element in that movie. And I think part of her challenge was just learning flexibility and learning that there are times when you can bend the rules, and there are times when you can even break the rules. And in some instances, as we learned from Captain Kirk, in some instances you can cheat death, and in some instances you lose your friends when serving Starfleet and exploring strange new galaxies and worlds, and when your enemies from years past come back to seek revenge on you. Now, Kirstie didn't return in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Lieutenant Saavik also made a brief appearance in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. And when Star Trek III: The Search for Spock was released, I was a little bit older, and I was looking for her. I was looking for Kirstie to reprise that role. And I think that was one of my disappointments with that movie, aside from the Enterprise being destroyed, because I loved that Enterprise. That was my favorite Enterprise, that refit Constitution class version of the Enterprise. That was my favorite. The chair, the way the bridge looked, engineering, all of it. I used to dream about being on that ship. But Robin Curtis took over the role. I don't know the particulars of why Kirstie Alley didn't come back, but I was disappointed. Robin Curtis did a good job as Lieutenant Saavik. She was a different actress, so she was more logical and more robotic, probably more of a traditional Vulcan than Kirstie Alley was. Kirstie, she brought a sensuality and a sexuality to that role. So it was noticeable for me when she was gone, and I wished that she had come back to play Lieutenant Saavik again. Now I'm going to wrap this up here. Kirstie died at 71 years of age. And so this is 2022. I did the quick math before shooting this video. So this is 2022. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Kahn was released in 1982. So that means that was 40 years ago. Wow. Yeah, it was 40 years ago. So that means she was 31. So she was 31 when she portrayed Lieutenant Saavik, and I was 6 years old. But yeah, she did a lot. She had some troubles, and she died of colon cancer. I did some research. I read an article last night to see what she died of. After her troubles, I think she'd kind of gotten things together a little bit more. I think she was a mother and a grandmother. But I will always remember her as Lieutenant Saavik. The disciplined and well-trained and well schooled and that by-the-book cadet who was always challenging Captain Kirk and who was Captain Spock's apprentice. I will always think of her first in that role, and thoughts of her will always take me back to me being 6 years old in 1982 and going to see Star Trek II: The Wrath of Kahn with my family. So I just wanted to make this quick tribute video to Kirstie Alley. So may Kirstie, may you rest in power, and thank you for all of your work and for leaving this lasting impression on me and the lasting impressions you've left on everyone else. So if you watched this, let me know what your memories of Kirstie Alley R. I mean, on Twitter, I've seen numerous people tweet a picture of her portraying Lieutenant Saavik. But maybe your favorite role was her in Cheers, or Look Who's Talking, or any of her other roles. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. And if you're new, please subscribe to the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to donate something, that information is below in the description box. And also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. In addition to being a YouTube content creator, I'm also a writer working on a book. And with that, everyone, stay safe out there. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. And always, I'm saying this now at the end of my videos, in life, always do your best. Even if you don't hit the mark, always do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.